It's been a very long time since the first season of the anime came out and collectively blew our minds, and it's also, I would say, been a very long time since the second season of the anime came out, even though it was only 2019, but anything pre-COVID just feels like a generation ago. But that second season, a lot of people felt it fell short of the high standards that the first season set. And the third season has now been announced, with the first teaser trailer having already been released, and I, for some reason, have the urge to talk about it now. A story that, on face value, can be boiled down to a parody of its genre's most prevalent tropes: big fights, tons of destruction, but it simultaneously stays true to those stereotypes but subverts them at the exact same time. A premise so over the top but surprisingly so close to home. It's One Punch Man. If you somehow haven't seen it but you have found yourself watching this video of all videos, well, it's about a guy who can win fights with a single punch. Does exactly what it says on the tin. Our main character Saitama is at a point where he has reached the end of his story in terms of strength, that is. There is no one around who can even hold a candle to his level of power. And while we have the big explosions and city smashing fights that you will find in practically any other series, other renowned heroes going toe to toe with the big monsters, that's like the backing track that's filling the silent void behind Saitama's apathy. Why do you stop playing video games once you've completed the story or finished all the quests? Why doesn't it feel the same when you use cheat codes after the initial but brief bit of fun? Why do you never see professional sports teams go up against 5-year-olds? It's boring, because there's no way there's any other outcome other than an easy win every single time, because once you've reached the end point or end goal, there's nothing left to do, so you just move on. But what if there's nothing for you to move on to and now you're just trapped in that predicament? Well, that's Saitama, so incredibly strong that he's lost all sense of thrill, and he's stuck in the same exact mindset as someone who is perpetually fed up with their 9-to-5 job, just going through the motions since there's no longer something to yearn for, to work in hopes of attaining. It sounds so uninteresting, but it's exactly why One Punch Man is so amazing. Gaining the ultimate physical prowess, but unfortunately at the expense of his mental drive. This show isn't compelling because he is One Punch Man, it's compelling because he is Saitama, if that makes sense. He's a normal guy who's worked so hard, so very hard to gain something he thought would be of value, but it ended up being more of a curse. And this concept allows for enjoyment on both sides of the spectrum. We can keep digging deeper into Saitama's psyche, where he just wishes that he could have fun again, where he would want to feel that rush of adrenaline inside of him, where he feels like everything is on the line. Back to the sports analogy, when you're watching the game, there's an infinite number of emotions you cycle through. Shouting when your team loses possession, screaming at the ref's terrible decision, biting your nails as the clock ticks down, punching the air when your team finally scores, and then punching your chair when the opposition scores. Because the game isn't going to be a one-sided massacre. Maybe once in a while they'll demolish the opposition and you celebrate each and every goal as if it's the first, but that's because you'll only get a game like that a couple times a season, so you're going to want to bask in it, in that relaxation of not ripping your hair out, because you'll definitely be ripping your hair out in every game to come. Like smashing every quick time event in a video game, timing everything perfectly. You know you're not that good of a gamer, don't lie to yourself, so you'll celebrate it because you know it's not gonna happen again. But for Saitama, it does happen again, and again, and again, and again, where everything feels the same, stuck in this loop of boredom. But then on the other side, like I mentioned, these exact same scenarios can be so funny. Remember I said his mindset is like that of your typical office worker? That's no understatement. He doesn't want to interact with any more people than he has to, and a supermarket sale is, of all things, what gets his blood pumping the most. Any opportunity to save a single penny is a massive win. A scene of him just going about his day is just as interesting as when he has to face off against the latest One Punch victim. The art style is absolutely insane. Unironically, some of the best art in the entire industry, which is placed next to some of the most uninspiring panels ever. And if you're at all familiar with the webcomic, you'll know that the creator, 1, His art isn't anything special. Normally I would refrain from bringing up an author's poor art because I can still enjoy a good story even if the art doesn't quite match that level, and yet I'm bringing it up here because that is one of the story's charms. It's something special born out of something that's seemingly uninteresting. Like Saitama is a deeper character when you look past his simple appearance. It's kind of a testament to the quality of the story that the webcomic was able to grab so many people's attention even before the manga adaptation was up and running. I mentioned in my Sakamoto video that I made, just look at Saitama. There is absolutely nothing about him that says this guy right here, Goldilocks, is the world's strongest hero, especially when everyone around him has some feature. Even King looks like an absolute badass, purely because he's got 3 scars. But King is another great example of a character who is more than meets the eye. And meanwhile Saitama's got nothing, except for the gleam of the sun bouncing off of his reflective dome. You know, think about the comedy in your modern blockbuster movie, say your modern Marvel superhero movie, where the jokes for the most part have boiled down to meta humor, where they aren't even, we criticize scripts sometimes for essentially talking to the audience and not the characters talking to each other. It's like a similar situation here with the jokes, where they might as well be looking directly into the camera, nudge nudge, wink wink, did the audience get that? Where the characters don't even feel like the characters. Look at how Thor has changed across his movies, the character specifically, not the whole movie. From The Dark World to Ragnarok to Love and Thunder, he's like a completely different character, and the jokes don't fit. So now, back to Saitama, the reason why the jokes work here is because that's kind of the whole point of his character, to make fun of this world he's living in, that he is out of place, that if you take away his unlimited power, he's just a fed up normal person. I mean, I've talked about Saitama a lot in this video, for good reason of course, he's the main character, but even beyond him, spoilers by the way from this point if you're anime only, and I don't read the webcomic, so what the manga is currently building to, all the little threads that are clearly pointing to one thing, and that one thing being absolutely massive, and throw the caped baldy into it. I've always been of the opinion that once we reach the end of the story, Saitama will have had to fight an opponent that will push him to the limit, even though he has broken his limiter, whether it be this thing or be it Blast, where we actually do see Saitama using everything that he has. I mean, the Saitama vs Awakened Garo fight was otherworldly, so I can't imagine what a Saitama final fight would even look like. And maybe then, finally then, we'll settle that debate of who is stronger between Saitama and Goku. Although realistically, even if we do get definitive proof of one being stronger than the other, there's no way the conversation is just gonna end there. And I don't really know what to expect from the 3rd season of the anime in terms of animation quality. The 1st season obviously set a tremendously high bar, and yes, even though I do agree that the 2nd season didn't match it, didn't quite reach that level, I for one still think that it was really good, and I think that the same studio he did season 2 is doing season 3 as well. I'm not 100% sure what of the manga material it will cover, because even though I have read the manga, I don't want to reread it and kind of ruin the fun for myself, if you know what I mean. It's probably the perfect gateway anime for anyone trying to get into the medium. I mean, I say that unless you just want to throw that person into the deep end and just give them Berserk to read or something. Even if you don't want to look deeper into what lies beneath the exterior, there's still so much that this story has to offer for you to enjoy. And unlike the guy who is just a hero for fun, you won't get bored or lose interest because the story doesn't stagnate really. Saitama, the heroes, the monsters, the side cast, the scale, the art, the comedy. And if you're anime only and you're still watching, trust me when I say that the best is yet to come. And I know that as a manga reader, that there's still a lot to get through and the best is still yet to come.